Welcome to Come and See, your podcast for finding truth in a world of chaos. Brought to you by All for Jesus Living Waters Ministry. With host and founder Richard Case and co-host and retreat leader Kathy Ricconi. Join us every weekday at this time to discuss news, spend time in the Word, and receive answers to your personal questions about living life in God's truth. And now your host, Richard Case.
Well, good morning, Kathy. Wednesday, and we're having a great time. Yesterday, we discussed this whole aspect of the paths that God has us on. We're walking into His good works. The aspect of being led and confirmed and checked, etc. And one thing that you said yesterday was you understood that you had an assignment for this season to spend time with your daughter Anna. And again, it's interesting, and this is something I help people with, because I hear a lot of people say, "Well, I'm trying to find my calling." And if I could find my calling, then I'll know what to do and how to do it and where to go. And and so, interesting enough, this is really cool in Scripture. He talks about calling quite a bit. Your calling is this. Your calling is this. And the word in the Greek is. He says, your calling is to join me. Yeah. And he says, come to the feast and enjoy the feast that I have for you as we enjoy each other, and then you fulfill the assignments. So in a sense, everybody's calling is the same.
Right.
We're to join him, walk in his path, and to fulfill the covenant, which is to receive blessing and then to give it away. And he'll tell us where to give that away. And when we give it away, we're facilitating the kingdom's work of bringing people to Christ, right. both in evangelism, and then as they become believers, to teach them what it means to abide, get connected to the vine,
and that's discipleship, really.
Discipling, go and make disciples. So when we talk about assignments, it's within the context of everybody's called to the same thing, but unique assignments.
Yes.
And unique assignments is always in what I call the now. Well, here's what I have for you now. And then I will, by the way, assignments end, and then I'm going to give you something different. Again, for receiving this supernatural, exceptional life in the context of receiving and giving it away. So you said, well, I understand my assignment at the moment is Anna.
Right.
Okay, talk a little bit about that. What does that mean? How did you receive that, and then how do you walk that out in terms of you and still enjoying life and margin of life, and not have that be on top of everything else you're doing? You got to now do this, which now causes you to be tired and weary.
Right.
So how does that work for you? How's it going with her, by the way?
Actually, it's going well. It's a work in progress, because again, you've got two different people involved in this at a minimum. And so I'll be honest with you that there is a part, and I think there's probably some moms out there who can thoroughly relate to this. There's a part of me that would love to take that assignment per se from God and just hold it tight and say, okay, this is mine. Everything, this whole season is all about me and you, Anna.
Yeah.
And, that is the mama bear in a lot of us, and then I just control and, everything else. And God has been very careful to tell me that is not your assignment.
No, the one thing I've learned, I've had teenage kids, and now I have teenage grandchildren. The one thing that I've learned is they really love their independence.
Yes. Yes.
And their penchant isn't to, yeah, I want to spend all my time with you. They
Right.
enjoy spending time with us, but they have all these other people to, friends and activities. And so, yeah,
And
it's,
they have their own assignment.
yeah, their own assignment. So it's
Their
not
own
the
assignment.
assignment
Yes.
isn't to, interesting enough, what you're saying is really critical. It's not for us to interpret that assignment.
Yes.
Well, okay. All
Exactly.
right. Anna's my assignment. So, Anna, you and I are going to spend 100% of our
24/7.
24/7 together because God gave me this assignment. And Anna, she would she would consider that punishment. um,
Oh,
she said, "Well, I don't think so."
right.
So yeah, it's
Right.
not us deciding. Okay, then I'm going to define it,
Yes.
and I'm going to make sure. No,
Yes.
it's prioritization.
Yes.
Here's where I want you to focus in line with what my life is going to show you,
Right.
step by step by step.
Right.
So maybe you could describe that a
And
little
that's
bit.
why, so that's yesterday I kind of described it as a filter.
Yeah,
It's something that he has highlighted to me. I'd even give it a pillar for the season, and I've talked to you before about how cyclically God will have me, just the way I'm wired. I need to, as seasons begin to change, about every 3 months or so, just kind of tee things up again. Okay, God, are we on the same? Am I hearing you correctly? Have I put the right pillars in place? These are my focal points. This is what I feel like you're saying. Where to spend my time and my efforts? Is this still what you're saying? And to recheck and allow him to remove or prune or tell me, yep, you're spot on. This is exactly where I want you right now. But again, it becomes a pillar or a filter, not something that then I own. And so, in this season, as he has spoken and highlighted, this season will go fast. She's number 3 for me. So, so I already know how quickly it goes from my first two, even. There is some precious time that I have for the two of you, but that's time of preparation for her and for you, and time for you guys to walk alongside each other, time for you to really give her wings to go on certain things. And so there's a lot of moving parts. And so, like you said, I don't have the right to take that assignment and define it.
right.
It's got to be a daily surrender kind of thing. And fluid as we go, he's going to highlight things. So even this morning, I found myself um, pouting a little bit. I'll be honest with you. So she's walking out the door for work, and I know what the schedule ahead says. And I'm thinking, they have no time. You don't have a window of time in there for me. And God said the assignments that we're supposed to have something here,
Right.
And so I was pouting a little bit, and I did share with her. It's like, I really, there's got to be something that shifts. So the reality is, I actually know, there is a part of me selfishly that wants to cling, but that's not what God is saying to do. That being said, there is a part that he's definitely highlighting to me right now of, okay, walk her through um, how she learns to navigate this. Because when she steps onto the college campus, it's only going to get busier and busier.
Right.
She needs to learn how to prioritize, and we need to have some good conversations on, okay, these are, how do you know, Anna, what some of your assignments are in this season? And then how do you say no to the things that aren't?
Yeah. Yeah.
And not just for my benefit, but this is for her to learn how to navigate. She has a beautiful walk with God. And he has put her in situations and in friendships and in leadership roles within school and youth group and everything else where she has a clear sphere of influence, but it will be watered down if she tries to do it all,
Right. Right. And
and so
and that translates into specifics, so that like Linda and I, we had the assignment given. Well, you got to spend time with your grandsons
mhm,
um, as they're moving into teenage years of driving and athletics, etc.
mhm,
So, and we understood again they're they're active with friends and
right,
act things away, so they're not,
which you want that to be,
yeah,
yeah,
which we want, and we want to teach them how to rely on God and all that.
mhm,
So what we understood, a couple things, and this Linda really helped us with this, is this is going to take time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well then, her question to me was, since this is going to take time, what things are you going to reduce so that you
Right.
have the time? So we processed
Mm-hmm.
that and reshuffled what's called pruning.
Mm-hmm.
God cutting us back and saying, okay, this is what I want you to do less of, or do not do at all, so that you have the time. And then Linda would say, one of the activities that we know for sure we can be part of is athletics.
Mm-hmm.
And they have games, and okay, what's the schedule of their games? And so she would look at that and look at our calendar, because we do retreats, weekends, and which is when they have games, etc. So we would organize. Okay, we're going to go to those games,
Mm-hmm.
and we're not going to do a retreat that weekend. We'll do it this weekend, and we would coordinate the specifics of that under the understanding of, well, athletics is something you can absolutely go to and should go to,
Right.
and
Right.
it reinforced them. And then, by the way, after the game, time of discussion, go out to dinner, have doing life
Mm-hmm.
with them and dealing with their stuff. And then one of the things that the grandsons were excited about was professional sports.
Mm.
So one of the assignments that God gave us was, for me personally, was buy tickets to the Bronco games and the Nuggets games here in Denver.
Mm-hmm.
And you can buy. God gave me a gift actually with a friend from Phoenix, who he's got season tickets to all the Bronco games, uh,
Oh, how fun.
and but he lives in Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
So because he had moved from Denver to there, and he kept them, and so he and I got know each other, and he says, I'm going to pick one or two games a season, and I'll give you the rest.
Oh,
Uh,
how fun.
and all you got to do is I had to do is just pay what's called face value, because usually you can sell
Mm-hmm.
them second hand and make lots of money because they're in high
Right.
demand.
Right.
He said I'll just sell them to what I paid for them, and so we work that out every season.
Mm-hmm.
Here are the games he's going to want, and then I get the rest of them. And then with the Nuggets, they have partial season passes, so you don't have to go to every game, which I couldn't do, but you can go to a group of them. And again,
Mm-hmm.
you're buying them at face value. So um, what I would do then is take them to the games. And again, the assignment, and this is where you get clarity and understanding,
Mm-hmm.
because your tendency, and my tendency is, okay, I need to make sure
Mm-hmm.
that they learn this, that they do this, and God said, say relax, um,
Right.
go enjoy them. Stuff will come up as you're doing life with them, and I know that's what you're doing with Anna.
Mm-hmm.
As you're doing life, stuff's going to come up, and you'll have plenty of opportunity to bring the truth in and talk to them, and what is God
Right.
saying, and are you abiding, and do you understand that, and what do you think is God's will? He said just relax, but he said by spending time with them, they're going to receive the things that you can disciple them in, not give them a program, but give them me, God speaking.
Right.
Let them
Right.
experience me, teach them to follow me, and they're going to enjoy it, and they're going to look to you for wisdom. And I think we
Mm-hmm.
had Joshua and Aiden on, and you even asked a question. If you had to describe your relationship with Opa, we're a German for Grandpa.
Uh-huh.
They said wisdom.
Yep.
Well, why is that happening? Because they have stuff they want to talk about, and we talk about it, and the wisdom is
Right.
from God, not from me.
Right.
But they associate that with, I get a chance to talk these things through when I get to spend time with him, and we're
Right.
doing it in a fun thing. So it's not like, okay, you show up at 4 o'clock and we're going to be, it's our wisdom time, No,
Right. Right.
it's fun, and just like you, and with Anna. So how is that going with Anna? What does that look like?
So for us, I love that you brought up the sports as a thing with Aiden and Josh. That's an easy thing. Anna does have a similar heart to mine in that we love to go out and we love to go kayaking.
Mm,
to go on a hike or even just go on a walk together. We do love to go get manicures and pedicures. And when we're sitting there and getting the chance to just have conversation about normal life, doing normal things, but doing things that she enjoys, that we both enjoy. Honestly, it's that common ground of this is a place where we can simply enjoy each other, and as we're enjoying each other, these other things all come
Mm,
up. And honestly, even car rides, that's one of the things I miss the most about when they get their driver's license,
yeah.
is the sweetness of car rides, because boy, conversations can happen there. So I love, when we're all in the car together driving to church, and we're actually in one vehicle and not just meeting somewhere,
Right.
and we get to have those conversations. Those are some of the sweetest moments.
Yep. And
We're also
didn't you spend like a full day going out in the woods and kayaking and stuff?
we went up to Fry Island and just had a beautiful time there. And those are the kind of stolen moments that I just love. And so that's definitely some of the things. Just we're both love to be outdoors, and she's a bigger beach person than I am, and so I have to remember that. And I had just sent her a text this morning that said, "Hey, if you want to try to fit in a beach morning, we can do that."
Mm,
Because I know I'm less prone to think about the beach as a first stop. It's 20 minutes from our house though, so it's an effortless thing to do. But she thinks of it quickly. That's one of her just go-to spots where she just, if she wants to unwind for 15 or 20 minutes, she'll go sit on the beach.
yeah, yeah. And
So
so,
so I have to remember that as a special spot for her. And so just joining her in how she's already wired is a great opportunity.
and as you're looking at the assignment that you're getting from God, it's um, He's starting to reveal, as He did with me and you. Well, this is what it looks like. And
Mm-hmm.
then, by the way, you do have to prioritize this and make
Yes.
time for this so that you could
Mm-hmm.
have the day to go spend
Right.
with her, going to Maine and enjoying that, as opposed to, well, yeah, but I'm kind of busy and I got this other stuff to
Mm-hmm.
do. I can go for maybe an hour or two, but I can't spend the day
Right.
with you. Well, no, you've understood. Hey, daughter, um, allocate time and
Mm-hmm.
priority to this over something else,
Right.
and that's something that becomes clear. And by the way, and this is the neat thing about it is, are you enjoying it?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And what's funny, as you describe all of this, I can't help but just highlight the parallel, what we're talking about, you with your grandsons, me with Anna. Um, that is an exact picture of abiding.
Yes.
you know the Father loves to join us
Right.
right where we're at. And and you talked about, okay, well, I want to join them in sports. He's like, okay, well, this piques your interest. I'm gonna come into that spot.
Right.
And that's what God does. He comes into that spot where we have something going on, and he joins us and journeys with us in that, and teaches and learns and capitalizes on those moments, and the whole process is joy.
Yeah, that's right. Uh,
So it
and
really is a great picture of abiding, actually.
and he actually speaks to this specifically. We've talked about that we are his workmanship to walk into it.
Hmm.
There's this beautiful verse in 1 Samuel 2:35, where Samuel has become born to Hannah and she's thrilled with it. And then he makes a statement about what God is up to with each of us. So if you would read 1 Samuel 2:35.
Sure. And I will raise up for myself a faithful priest who shall do according to what is in my heart and in my mind. And I will build him a sure house, and he shall go in and out before my anointed forever.
Yeah. So uh, it's really, again, how beautiful this is who is initiating this activity, this assignment.
Yeah, got it.
God is. He
Hmm.
said, I'm going to, and interesting, he says, I'm going to raise up for who? Himself,
For myself. Yes.
myself. I'm raising you up for myself, God speaking, that I want you to enjoy being with me. I enjoy being with you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I'm gonna train you to be a faithful priest.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so let's talk about that. A kind of a misnomer of what a priest is. But what do you think a priest? How is a priest defined? What is a priest for God?
Oh, great question. When I think of priest, well, first of all, I guess you can step back to just culturally speaking, people will think of a priest as someone, leading a church, specifically in a Catholic church,
Right. Yeah.
leading a body specifically in a Catholic church. But that priest is really his representative. And when you go back to the tabernacle times, that was who was allowed in the Holy of Holies, allowed in the throne room to speak to him, and then to come back and share that with other people.
Yeah.
So there was a representation there as well
Yeah.
as the community and relationship.
Yeah. And this is interesting because our picture of a priest is, um, serving me
Mm-hmm.
with programming and activity so that I, am doing good.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. And if I'm struggling, then here's somebody I can go to and help me with my problems. Um, Interesting enough, it's the opposite. And
Mm.
a priest priority was interesting enough not to focus on the people, but to focus on God.
Yes.
And what the priest did was his role was to talk with God, walk with God, understand God's will, and
Mm-hmm.
then help the people understand and walk in God's will.
Right.
So he's the translator of that to facilitate it. And because of the New Testament, and we know uh, Christ lives in everybody. And that's why I said
Mm-hmm.
abiding in the vine is so critical, is get connected. So if you think of a priest today, our role, which he then, he spoke, and we already talked about this, is go and make
Mm-hmm.
disciples.
Right.
Well, what does that mean? Well, that means help them understand my will
Mm-hmm.
and walk with me so they hear my will. And then they will teach others how to walk with God and understand God's will because they'll become a
Right.
faithful priest as well.
Right.
And so it's really interesting. And we'll talk about what it means to be faithful. But he says to carry out everything that's on God's heart.
Mm-hmm.
Um, okay, so when you think about that, because again, we tend to think of God's will as what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? He
Mm-hmm.
says, well, I'm raising you up as a priest. So first of all, that you understand God's will for you and my assignments for you. And then secondly is learn what's on my heart.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think about that, like for example, you're talking about Anna. Um, one of your assignments is to learn what's on her heart.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean? What do you think that means? Hey, I'm supposed to learn what's on somebody's heart, your husband's heart, your daughter's heart. What does that mean? What are you learning?
Really, what's going on in their world, where the heavy spots are, where the joyous spots are, where their concerns are, where their questions are. It's really just letting yourself in an authentic way in their life,
Yeah,
and listening,
yeah,
learning to listen honestly.
yeah, yeah. So if you were learning what's on Dan's heart,
Mm-hmm.
um, well, it would be you receiving.
Mm-hmm.
Well, here's what's important to me.
Mm-hmm.
Here are the things that I understand, and here's what I believe. So as we are a faithful priest, our first priority is to learn the truth, the beauty, the wonder of God Himself.
Mm-hmm.
So that, for example, one of the things that's true of God is He says, "I've come to give you life
Mm-hmm.
and give it to you super abundantly."
Right.
Well, that's on His heart. So as we explore that, He said, "Well, I've made that statement, and by the way, that is who I am." Well, we would if we walk with him, we're going to learn that.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to learn that the covenant is always so. I'm going to bless you to make you a blessing. Always so. Okay, so now how does that translate? If I learn that and you got an issue,
Mm-hmm.
something comes up that's difficult, troublesome, maybe negative, the outcome could be negative. If you know the heart of God, how do you approach that problem?
Well, completely differently
Yeah.
because I know his heart for me is abundant life.
Yes.
His heart for me is to give me wisdom, to speak into it, and to lead me into his best and none better.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that changes how I view it, and it changes the hope I have in the midst of the trial
Okay. Why would you hope?
because I know what he has said he is and who he is.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I know his heart.
Yeah. You've learned his heart, so that your context as you approach life
Mm-hmm.
is out of your knowing, experiencing the heart of God, which he said, this is my priority. If you're going to be faithful, you have to understand the heart of God, the soul of God, the essence of God, and the truth of God, so that as you play that out, like for example, and this is what happens as people come to me, they generally come to me because they got a problem.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't reconciled what they understand. I thought God would just take care of everything, but He's
Mm-hmm.
not, and I'm in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so, okay, I understand that. Now, because I know the heart of God, I will say I guarantee you that God will resolve this.
Right.
And that's where there's an interesting. How can you do that? Well, here's why. Because I know the heart of God.
Right.
I've experienced the heart of God. I see and understand and have proven to me the heart of God, and that provides the context of
Mm-hmm.
my issues, and that provides the context for me helping other people with their issues. Is, well, come and learn the heart of God,
Mm-hmm.
and that's His will. Is in the stuff of life. He says, "Let me reveal to you my heart."
Mm-hmm.
So that you really begin to understand, can stand on, believe, and live out the context of that, which, like you said, changes my whole perspective.
Right.
And then it gives you hope. And by the way, the word for hope is the expectation
Yes.
of the fullness of what God is going to fulfill based on what He's
Mm-hmm.
already said. And I expect that. I expect it.
Right.
And it really changes. So it's a beautiful aspect of, and why I think he adds that in this verse is, I'm not looking for a faithful priest just to carry out my duties.
Mm-hmm.
He says, I want a priest that understands, lives in,
Mm-hmm.
experiences my heart, my essence,
Yeah.
and then carries out faithfully the assignments like you're doing with Anna.
Mm-hmm.
Is, well, you're being a priest to her. And interesting enough, and maybe you could talk about this a little bit, your focus, even though she's your assignment, your focus really isn't on Anna,
Right.
it's on God. And talk a little bit about that, because that's a little bit foreign to us. Like, okay, great, I got this assignment. My assignment is my grandkid. My assignment is my daughter. All right, I'm going to go take care of it. And God says, actually, I don't want your focus on her. I want your focus on me.
Right.
What does that
Yes.
mean? What does that
So
look like?
for me, what that looks like, the intentionality of time spent with Anna is an important thing, making sure I carve that out. So there's intentionality in that. But then the focus is on God. And it comes back to that in Matthew 28, go therefore and make disciples. That's the as you go. And so for us, the sweetest parts of our conversations come when we're both simply sharing where we're authentically walking with God. I don't have to create something. I just have to invite her into where he's already speaking to me and sharing that with her. And she does the same with me.
Yeah.
And that creates these opportunities. So I'm not shifting my focus and saying, okay, I've got to be all about Anna and I need to inspect every little part of her heart and where is she sure what have I done to not prepare her, how have I not prepared her flying the nest, leaving the nest next year. That's not actually my focus. My focus is on God, and then just authentically bringing that into relationship, and he will use that and open my eyes and open her eyes to what he wants to teach both of
Right,
us in that moment.
right, right. Because a faithful priest is faithful, interesting enough, to keep, okay, Father, what would you have my role be to carry out your
Mhm.
will and help this person, like Anna? How can I help her learn to move into that same place where
Right.
she's a faithful priest, and
Mhm.
she's living out her assignments with joy and excitement, and she's learning who you are. That
Mhm.
that is, see, that's what discipleship looks like.
Right. And
Is
honestly, the best, our best conversations on both sides always come not from me telling her what I think or what I've learned even about her situation. It's from both of us simply sharing what God's saying now. And like, oh, yeah, he's saying that to me too in this different way. And I think that adds a layer to what he's teaching me. And it is less about, it's not a preaching to, it's a bearing witness.
right,
You've talked about you can only bear witness to what you're actually experiencing, seeing yourself.
right,
And it's that authentically bearing witness as we walk together in
yeah,
love.
yeah, that's right. And then as we look at that, being a faithful witness, and being a faithful priest, and we're following God's will, it is based on a choice that we have to make individually. So
Mm-hmm.
if you'll read Deuteronomy 30, 15 to 20, he kind of lays out this choice, which is up to us. So go ahead and read that,
Sure.
Deuteronomy 30, 15 to 20.
See, I have set before you today life and good, death and evil. If you obey the commandments of the Lord your God that I command you today, by loving the Lord your God, by walking in his ways, and by keeping his commandments and his statutes and his rules, then you shall live and multiply, and the Lord your God will bless you in the land that you are entering to take possession of it. But if your heart turns away and you will not hear, but are drawn away to worship other gods and serve them, I declare to you today that you shall surely perish. You shall not live long in the land that you are going over the Jordan to enter and possess. I call heaven and earth to witness against you today that I have set before you life and death, blessing and curse. Therefore, choose life that you and your offspring may live, loving the Lord your God, obeying his voice, and holding fast to him. For he is your life and length of days, that you may dwell in the land that the Lord swore to your fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, to give them.
Yeah. So he describes, as he's raising up faithful priests,
Mm-hmm.
carrying out his will, he does offer us, uh, which direction do you want to go? I set
Mm-hmm.
before you life or death, blessing or cursing.
Mm-hmm.
And then he says, if I was you, I'd choose life.
Choose life.
um, Now, again, when you choose life, and you talked about the knowing God, what kind of a life are you choosing?
You're choosing best and none better.
Yeah,
You're choosing a life of adventure, of joy, of peace, of love, of grace.
yeah. So you're choosing. He said, "I've come to give you life and give it to you super abundantly." I'm going to choose. When he says choose life, it's choosing blessing. It's the
Mm-hmm.
covenant. I'm going to bless you to make you a blessing.
Yes.
I will resolve your issues. I will guide you into all of the beauty of life. Again, and we got to keep reminding us that it's not absent of trouble.
Right.
So he's not saying, I'm going to lead you into a separate Garden of Eden where nothing happens.
Mm-hmm.
It's no, you're living in the world. And we've talked about the world. The world is chaotic. By the way, getting more chaotic every day.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so the challenge is, in this world of trouble, he
Mm-hmm.
says, well, choose to walk with me, and I will deliver to you blessing in life, the abundant
Right.
life. And it's a choice you have to make, um, which is at the essence of our soul, of our heart. In other words, do we have a heart to say, I really want to learn what it means to walk with him? Because I know
Mm-hmm.
something, that life will be best and none better.
Right.
So, and again, that's a struggle for a lot of people because up till now, they say, I can't say that. I can't say
Mm-hmm.
my life is best and none better. I got a lot of things going on that I would say are not good at all.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I understand that. Um, and it boils down to the choices you've made. And in my opinion, it's out of ignorance.
Mm-hmm.
Is that I thought everything that happens is God's will, and I don't have any choice to make because I already made the choice. I'm a believer.
Right.
He says, well, now you have to live that out daily
Mm-hmm.
by living in my kingdom and let me be the king. And you're going to have to choose to walk with me. And again, think of it real simply. Yes, I'm going to deliver to you best and none better. I'm going to deliver to
Mm-hmm.
you blessing for you to be blessed. And he said, in order for me to do that, I need you to be with me.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Because I have the plan. I've got the power. I've got the path that I'm going to deliver you on. It's unique to you.
Mm-hmm.
You're my workmanship. Walk in what I have planned for you. And if you choose not to, because you're going your own way, and that's what sin is. It's self. All right, I've chosen. I'm going to go do this because I think that's a better idea.
Mm-hmm.
And see, God says, I'm not going to force you.
Right.
If you choose that, you're walking into cursing, and it's not going to go well for you. And that's why you're experiencing difficulty. With His hope is, don't you want to try something different?
Right.
Don't you want to come and be with me and walk with me? Because He says what it means to choose life. He says is to love me. The word in there is obey, but the word is to hear and follow
Mm-hmm.
and cling to me.
Yeah.
And cling to me, just basically stay with me. I'll instruct you.
Mm-hmm.
You'll have a heart to follow. Sometimes it'll be a little bit of a struggle. I'm not sure I can do that. I'm not sure I understand it. It doesn't make sense to me. And he says, yeah, I know. Um, Come and learn that. Let me walk you through
Mm-hmm.
it so that you see what I see. And you'll say, okay, I will walk with you and do this thing that you've asked me to do, even though it doesn't make sense to me. I'll give you an example.
Mm-hmm.
Had a guy that had cancer, and he was looking for a solution of what therapy should I go to, and is God going to heal me, and how's that going to work? And he got promises. Yes, I'm going to heal you. Walk with me.
Mm-hmm.
And there were lots of alternatives to the therapy,
Mm-hmm.
um, and all kinds of them. And so he did an investigation, asked, seek, and knock, and he found that 5 of them were pretty well equally effective at resolving this particular cancer. Interesting enough, it was that they all were going to heal you, but they had some what they call side effects,
Mm-hmm.
incontinence, and impotence. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so he was concerned about that. He said,
Yeah.
"Yeah, I
Yeah, I
really,
can see that.
yeah, I really believe I'm going to get healed, but I'm worried about this. So which one? Which one? Which one?"
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so he was investigating that, and one of them, and this is as we've talked about, God started to reveal things to him.
Mm-hmm.
It's go down this path. Of all 5, this is one I'm asking you to start spending time on. Now, again, and
Mm-hmm.
I try to help people with this. Don't assume just because he put you on that path that that's the answer. It could be.
Right.
It could be that he's trying to get that off the table.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want you to deal with this so we get it off the table. So don't presume anything. Just okay. I'm going to go down. And I'll just give you an example. He was in the Midwest, and this one therapy was one that was out of California.
Mm-hmm.
So he's investigating it. Well, he's driving home from a trip, and a billboard on the freeway shows that place
Mm-hmm.
on a billboard. And he was wondering, God, are you asking me to do this? Are you asking me to do this? there's a sign, literally a sign.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right, I'm going to pursue that further. So he is, and he's calling him to try to get an appointment to come out and get everything resolved. And so he and I talk, and he says, I've been calling him now for about 3 weeks. They never call me back. So I guess that's not it. And I said, Father, is that what's happening? And I'm praying, and he said, no, he's missing something. Okay. So I asked him, and this is what God instructed me to ask him. I said, is there something that you've been asked to do that you're not doing? And he said, yeah. What? He said, God asked me to tell my company that I got cancer. But until I get everything figured out, I don't want to tell them, because I gotta work with them on, my pay and how long it's going to take and how long I'm going to be out, and financially I got to make it all work. And so I said, oh, I don't think you're going to get your answer until you follow him. Even though I understand it's a struggle, and what you're saying makes logical sense, but that's not what God has said.
Right.
You've got to overcome that logic and say, I'm willing to follow you, because your answers are going to come from that. So I said, I believe that you're not going to get any further until you're obedient. You did hear it, but you're struggling with it, which I can appreciate completely.
Right.
So, why don't you go and spend time with God and work it through? Now, this is the essence of where it is. It's the heart. It's not about I'm perfect at this obedience stuff. It's I have a heart. He says, choose blessing and life by staying with me. Let me work you through it so that you follow what I'm asking you to do, because I know the best answer. So he did, and it took him a week or so of what I call the yeah buts, and working through with God. But he finally understood, and God kept reinforcing, I'm telling you, it's all gonna come clear to you, and be blessed if you do this.
Right.
So he calls me up and said, okay, I've come to that conclusion. He's given me the power to faithfully follow what he just said. I'm going to do it. And he said, now, and he and I talked. He said, how much should I ask for when I tell him? Because I got to have time off. How much should I ask for? How much money should I ask for? How much, what should I do? I said, why don't you go pray about it, and I'll pray about it, and then we'll come back and we'll know. So he prays about it. I come back. And I said, well, what'd God say to you? He said, God told me to ask for nothing, that they're going to tell me. I said, that's what I heard. In other words, God's answer is going to come from them.
Right.
Let them respond. Just let them, whatever they give you is God's answer. Do you trust it? Yep, I do. Okay, so so this is really cool. So he goes, all right, tomorrow I'm going to go. And he goes and talks to him, and I have this issue. I don't know how much time off I'm going to need, but I got the problem, and I'm going to have to, not work for a while. And they said, oh my gosh, how awful is that? You know what? Take the whole year. Take the whole year off with you and your wife. We'll pay you full salary. And when you come back, we'll put you back in that same role. And you just go get healed. And take a whole year off, even if it only takes you 6 months or 6 weeks or 8 weeks to get healed. Just take the rest of the year off and get get things together. And so God blessed him. He said, I would have never asked for that. I would have never asked for that. And they gave it to him. And then he said this. He said, guess what happened next?
What?
45 minutes later, after he had that conversation.
Oh, he gets the phone call.
The phone call from California. Hey, come on out. And I said, and then he got it all set up, went out, investigated them, and then got confirmed. He and his wife got confirmed. Yep, that's the right place. And he got healed and didn't have the side effects.
Do you remember the time lapse between how long that process was between him having the conversation with you about it being, that he had called and hadn't gotten the return call, and you asked him where the obedience was, and then when he willingly stepped into that obedience? Do you
Yeah.
remember what that time
Yeah, it
lapse
was
was?
it was about a month.
Okay.
Um,
So I wanted to highlight that because I think that's an important thing to pay attention to, because the whole process that you just described here is somebody wrestling out. That's a live example of how we wrestle out the goodness of God,
right.
right? Because he had heard something and he's waiting to hear more instruction. But, just like when I give, when my kids were little, I would give them an instruction and say, hey, go clean your room. And then we're going out to ice cream. And they'd come downstairs all ready to go, let's go get ice cream. I'm like, that's great. But did you clean your room? No, not yet. Go up and clean your room. And come back down. Did you clean your room yet? No, not yet. But can we just go get ice cream? I'm like, I've got this great ice cream for you, but you need to do this
Right,
first.
right, right.
So it's that same kind of concept. And we wrestle with God in the same way sometimes. And we want him to go ahead and give us the next thing because maybe we don't like the instruction we received,
Yeah, yeah. And usually,
and we don't fully understand the instruction we received. And
right.
so,
And particularly
go
when
ahead.
it doesn't follow, again, what I would consider to be logical, is wouldn't it be
Right.
better if I got all this resolved and then told him?
Yeah.
Um, and God said, well, I have a different way for that. I have a different
Right.
answer. And that's a supernatural thing of my path is best and none better. And the neat thing, as he was struggling with this, was there wasn't any hiding of it. It
Mm-hmm.
was completely authentic. Yep, I've gotten this instruction and I'm really struggling.
Right.
I'm really struggling with it. Okay.
But
Um,
God walked him through that.
yeah,
He
and
walked him through that.
and that's what discipling is all about. Is that okay? I know something about that. God's answer is going to be beautiful, and I know
Mm-hmm.
that as you struggle, if you walk with Him, He'll
Mm-hmm.
give you the power to follow.
Mm-hmm.
And so all you have to do, this is interesting, in that, even in that struggle, keep following
Mm-hmm.
Him,
Right.
keep walking with Him, and He's not upset. Well, hey,
Mm-hmm.
you're not doing it as fast as I want you to, so that's it. It's like, I understand. Keep talking to me, keep processing. We're dialoguing together. I'm abiding
Mm-hmm.
with you, you're abiding with me. And now he comes to the power to say,
Mm-hmm.
I now believe that is going to be so. It doesn't make sense,
Right.
but I'm willing to follow, and then knowing that the outcomes is going to be God's best.
Right.
And he started to, now, by the way, having experienced it, he is he is one that God's asking to bless others,
Yes.
help others when they're struggling. Learn
Mm-hmm.
what that is. What does it mean to hear? And in this verse, by the way, he gives us a clue about following. In verse 17, he says, "If you stop hearing my voice, it's a heart issue.
Mm-hmm.
You've chosen to walk away from me,
Right.
and you're not hearing my voice." That's why I keep saying to people who say to me, I'm having a dry spell, I'm not hearing God's voice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know something about that. The problem's you, not God.
Right.
Because God said, I'm speaking to you all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we have Jesus as the example where he said, I only did what the Father spoke. There's nothing described where he said, yeah, I had a couple weeks where the Father never would talk to me.
Mm-hmm.
No, not so. The problem is me, not God. And he says, when you stop hearing my voice, you've just walked away from the kingdom. You've walked away
Mm-hmm.
from me. And the remedy is you got to come back and start hearing me again. And so, like in this example that we're talking about with this gentleman, he heard God's voice the whole time. It was really cool
Mm-hmm.
because he didn't walk away. He struggled,
Right.
but he didn't walk away. And so
He stayed in the
he's
process.
hearing
Yeah.
God's voice the whole time, which God says, well, that's an indicator that you're
Mm-hmm.
with me, and let that be one of your indicators. Are you hearing my voice?
Mm-hmm.
You're with me. Don't worry about the struggle. Don't worry about that it's that doesn't make sense to you. I'll get you there.
Mm-hmm.
Keep listening, keep processing. What are you saying? What am I saying? And it's such a beautiful little by the way, is that if you don't hear me, it's a heart issue.
Mm-hmm.
And the hard issue is I've decided I'm not going to follow you anymore. I'm going to go do my own thing. He said, if I was you, I'd come back.
And sometimes that's deliberately choosing, I'm going to go do my own thing. And sometimes it's by neglect.
Yeah, neglect. Yeah. Yep.
And I think, we see that often. I can't tell you the number of people, and I'm sure you've seen it too, that I'm talking them through some of what's going on, and they're simply too busy right now to go ask God about that, or too busy to spend time in His Word, because there's so much going on. And when there's more time, then I can do that.
Yeah.
And so getting them to shift and recognize you do have to be intentional in spending the time with God. And
yeah. And when as you say that, you see, it's funny because I'm too busy. I'm too busy to spend time with God, who can resolve my issues. I mean, it's like
I'm too busy resolving my own issues to ask Him to resolve my issues.
I think you ought to rethink that.
Yeah.
And this is
common.
It is. Oh yeah,
I hear
it
all
is
the time.
And God saying, "Well, if I was you, I would choose me. I'm gonna give you this beautiful life. You let me do it. So as we end our time today, we'll pick this up again tomorrow. It's about God having you become a faithful priest to carry out what's on His heart, learning what's on His heart, and then it's a choice. And see, it's not about are you perfectly obedient. It's no, just walk with God and work even through the struggle, because I'm willing to let you show me and give me the power to be obedient. So make it clear. What is your assignment? What's your instruction? And then when I struggle with that, give me the power to follow it. And all I got to do is stay with Him. So it's a beautiful thing. Right. So we'll pick it up again tomorrow. And again, if you have questions, I've got it on the screen. Questions at afjministry.com or on the comments section. And Kathy, we have our guest tomorrow, so that'll be a fun thing to experience.
Oh, excellent.
And then Friday will be End Times Friday. So we're heading toward
got a great week ahead.
End of the week, and we're going to have a great time.
All right. Well, if you found today encouraging and inspirational, be sure to be a friend and tell a friend. Rich, thanks for sharing that story. I know hearing personal stories of people we know and even ourselves walking through these things makes such a difference to people, just putting God on a pedestal with what He does.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
So be sure to share that with others, and we look forward to having you join us again tomorrow.
Yep, we'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you for joining us for today's episode of Come and See, your podcast for truth in a world of chaos. Brought to you by All for Jesus Living Waters Ministry. Send us your questions and comments, and tune in tomorrow for more answers to your personal questions about living life in God's truth. Remember, God's will is best and none better. His truth brings peace in this world of chaos.